Dun, 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 dun. Hello, and this is Jets Chaos with Jeremy, and it is the Wacky Wednesday show. And you know what that means? That means I have a co host that you all know and love. Some call him the Wicker Man. Some people call him Adam. Some people call him Watsuke99. And if you don't know him, you're going to get to meet him when we come back right after this. I would regret it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
We have one of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game, and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Aquanu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who can potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today, you can't get rid of him.
Right, it's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.
And we're back. So, I promised you this, and I will deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to meet up with this man this weekend. And when I tell you he wasn't lying about being the hot dog eating champion of the world, I watched him sit across from me and help me eat an entire pizza pie. He's the bagel eating, pizza eating, artichoke eating, mussel eating, oyster eating, hot dog eating, Ronzoni Chef Boyardee in a can eating champion of the world. Please welcome the Wicker Man, Watsuke99.
How you doing, my friend?
What is up?
You know, we didn't get a chance to break this open, but you know what? On the show tonight, I have just pulled the cork, and I am going to pour a little glass of this for Wacky Wednesday. So here's to a great weekend. Here's to awesome travels for you and Mrs. Jeremy. It was awesome meeting you both. We could tell a few stories. Oh, yes, we're going to talk about that. But first of all, here's to a great show, and here's to you, chat.
Oh, he's drinking the Iowan wine. Oh, does it taste like wine?
I got a little bit of the bubbly on my palate there. Thankfully it's not too sweet. I was worried about with that color it was gonna be like all sugar, but the slightest hint of bubble. But yeah, it tastes like a really light red wine. Really, really light though. But yeah, definitely nothing. I wouldn't have this with a steak. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so you're not going to die or anything. Grandizer will be back with us watching later. He's one of our loyal guys. Appreciate him. Jets Messes here. X Factor just read what I wrote on Mims because he was behind. I was just on his channel. Did he agree with it? Did he know? Does he know what kinesthetic means?
I don't even know what I have to look that one up.
It's a type of learner where I was saying that Mims might be it's a modality of learning. Some people learn different ways. They're really strong at learning in different ways, and some people are very strong at learning hands-on by doing. So if you figure Mims had food poisoning and he was sick, he can't look at a playbook and learn it that way. He has to actually run the routes and practice it, right? This is just the theory. And now he's had an entire off season to practice the playbook by actually doing it and running it. And that might be how he learns the playbook, just because he's a different type of learner. So we'll find out what Joe Blewett said about that. But that's just the theory that I have. What's up, Mark Reese? He would know that because he's a teacher, so he would know the different learning modalities.
How
Jets
is it
fan
possible we have
United.
so many Jets fans who are directly responsible for influencing the youth of America? It's crazy. I got
It's
the
amazing.
financial side. You got the principal side. We got so many teachers. It's rather horrifying when you really think about it.
It really is, man. We got Chiefs in the Clutch. There's that name I like. That's the channel I can't wait to support. And then we got Wicker Media. Wicker Media. I like it. I
That's
like
right.
it.
It's good. That's what it's going to be. I put a few videos up today on the channel. I think we might switch a name or two over. I'll still be Wat2K99, but it looks like the channel is going to be New York Sports Wicker Media. So if you didn't see the videos, now you know. That's what we're going to start doing. And today I was actually setting the studio apartment up. And so I made a few adjustments. I wasn't going to premiere it tonight because I didn't know if you were going to be here, but I do have a couple of things set up. So maybe a little bit later on tonight, I can shift studios into the next room. We'll have to see. Yeah. Mark, that game is unbelievable. I mean, come on. Is this not dedication? The Rangers are up 4-2 on Tampa Bay after one of the best shifts that I've ever seen. That kid line is unbelievable. And to do what they're doing against Vasilevsky and the two-time defending champions, that was amazing. But you know what? The game is on pause. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to think about it because my focus is here right now.
This is so funny. The first thing Green Bean said to me, I guess he talked about it. Since I'm on vacation, I wasn't able to watch Green Bean, but I guess he talked about our meeting because how else would Jacob Finnegan know? The first thing Green Bean said to me when he walked up to me is, "You're tall, man. You're tall." And I'm like, "I'm 5'11". And he's like, "Well, I thought you were like 5'7". And I was like, "Well, I like this, that I was bigger than you, Green Bean." And like,
so he thought you were my height, basically. That's what we're saying here.
Yeah. Payo time, what's up, my friends? Man, I love myself some Payo time, man. He's the man.
Good guy. Yeah, good guy, smart guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Buffalo fan, what is up? Buffalo Jets fan, my friend. Kevin, I cannot wait to do our show. Those of you, if you still don't know, or if you just watch them for the first time, Buffalo Jet fan, first of all, if you don't know, has one of the hottest channels on YouTube, and it's because he's just awesome. I don't know what to say about him. I mean, isn't he great? There's no way you don't like him. He's the most likable guy. He has a great style that's actually very unique. I love being a guest on his show because he always has the best questions in the way of presenting information. And I am flattered and honored that he is going to, and that he's invited me, and I'm going to get to participate in a post-game Jets show with him. I'm going to get to be on his panel. I think you were invited too, but it's a little harder for you. You can explain that.
No.
But yeah. I'm just so excited for this season just for that. Like, I can't wait to be on with him after the games.
Yep, he invited me too, and I was happy to accept. Of course, I think I'm one of the I might be the only one who doesn't watch these games from home because I got to watch the games, with my club at AJ Gators, and I have to meet people, take care of the logistics, the sound system, the prizes, and all of that kind of stuff that we do every week. So it's a situation where I'm just trying to figure out what the easiest way is to do this. My options are either doing it in the car on the drive home, which I don't think is the wisest way, or I think what I might do is just take my laptop over to the bar and then just over to the restaurant and then just stay later, plug in, and record the show that way. At least that way it'll just be easier that way. So yeah, we'll figure out how it makes the most sense, but I think I'll just do it from the restaurant.
Cool. So
it's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be, you will not want to miss that post-game show. If you're feeling the void of like Ray Lucas and Mike Westhoff and Joe Klecko and Adam Shine, those guys leaving SNY, and now you got all the yes men, the anti-Zach guys, you're not going to get that on this channel.
No, you're not going to get any crap like that. Hey, and speaking of Jets mess, he'd be very, very happy to know that, yes, me and Green Beans did some very good eating. And also today, I found out in D.C., you didn't tell me this, Adam, there's a
Okay.
Wawa. So I was able to call Uber Eats before because I had to work today online with my school leadership meetings, and I had Wawa deliver some hoagies, Italian hoagies. It was
Oh, okay.
wonderful, and I'm going to go to that other place on that you told me about tomorrow for sure.
Bub and Pops, yes, in
Yeah.
DC near DuPont Circle in downtown DC. One of the best sandwich shops I've ever been to, and I'm a guy who eats a lot of sandwiches. It's hard for me to go low carb, although I try to make an effort for a day or so, and then I usually fall off the wagon. But no, I didn't know you had such a thing for a Wawa, like down in North Carolina, that area. They're big on sheets,
Yeah, man, but
SHEETZ.
I couldn't give a sheets about
Sheets.
sheets.
Yeah,
They're full of
I actually
sheets
literally
if they
have a
think they're-
Wawa. It is literally 30 seconds down the street from my apartment. I'm halfway in between a Wawa and a Costco.
You're very lucky. What I
It's a
like
beautiful
about
thing.
what I like about the Wawa is I think the hoagies are very good and they have the Philly style pretzels. So
Okay, I didn't know they had the pretzels. I might
yeah,
have to
they
check
they
that
come
out.
wrapped. They come like in the wrapper, so they're pretty like vacuum packed, but they're like pretty authentic Philly style pretzels. I would recommend putting it in the oven for like 3 minutes at 400 degrees just to give it a little warm it up a tiny bit, and then you're ready to go.
Okay. If it doesn't have a little bit of crispiness, yeah, you got to have a little crisp on that pretzel.
Is it true the wine you're drinking is made from corn, or was that just a joke?
Let's see. Put it this way: if it did, I don't think it would mention it. The only thing I know that it contains is sulfites. I'm not even sure if it contains grapes.
Hmm.
No, but no. But in all seriousness, after about the first taste, I'm kind of getting used to it. It's actually pretty good. It's just a little bit of a different red than I usually have, but I'm liking it. 911 when I pass out. You know what, Jets Mess? After the last couple of days in Raleigh, and then driving back at 4 a.m. just to go to work for 9 hours, if I survived that the insanity of that Monday, I could survive this thing. I can tell you that right now. You don't have to worry about a thing. But I appreciate you looking out.
Boogie Down Bronx. That's my guy. That's my man. That's who I'm going to
Boogie?
hang out with if I'm in the Bronx. No one's going to mess with me if I'm hanging out with Boogie Down. he's one of my muscle, one of my enforcers. You could just tell. I just got a feeling, man. If somebody wants to mess with us, they're gonna have a problem if I'm hanging out with my man Boogie Down Bronx. He's the man.
Yeah. We got a little bit of ribbon in Raleigh, but nothing that we couldn't handle. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been because I was wearing Rangers gear in Raleigh. That might have
little
something
bit
to do with it.
Yeah, a little bit of fun ripping. But if it would have gotten out of hand, you would have wished we had Boogie Down sitting next to us because he would have been like.
That is true. I would have been hoping for some Boogie or have some other people in there just to scare them away out of annoyance. I mean, yeah. We could have run the whole gamut. We could have tortured them physically and psychologically.
There's only one man who's not going to back down from Boogie Down Bronx, and that's Michael Clemens. So.
Oh my gosh. I think
Dom
the Terminator went back
house.
down for Michael Clemens. Hey, Dom.
Oh, look at this. We're finding out that, you see, I'm not tall. I knew that Kevin was tall. He goes, fun fact, he's 6'2". But Matt O'Leary is still the biggest Jet YouTube content provider on record at 6'4".
I was going to ask Buffalo versus O'Leary. Yeah, what's the call on that? All right, but O'Leary, see, that's the thing. O'Leary doesn't look like he's 6'4" when you're watching his videos.
Yeah, that's
true.
He
hides the height. Okay.
Yeah, he does. I found out because I was giving him a hard time once about something, and he goes, "Dude, I'm 6'4". I was like, "Oh." Dark
Soldier. Always good to see you.
Always good to see Dark Soldier. And Sean McAteer, man. Super cool dude. Big fan of the show. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of Sean's.
Yeah.
And,
Sean's good people. Sean's good people. If
you're
in this chat, you're good people.
I'm telling you, I love our people, man. We got the best people. Hey, Jeremy, what about New York hot dogs doing like that? Hey, New York hot dogs aren't what they used to be, man. I used to like, I mean, don't get me wrong if you know where to go, but a lot of those hot dog stands, when I was a kid in the 80s, every hot dog stand was Sabret. And they were supplied by the real Sabret in Brooklyn. There was a place, the Sabret had an outlet there, and they supplied all the hot dog stands and they were the best. And they had the red onion sauce and all the
Right.
great stuff. And then at some point, man, all these hot dog stands went for a cheaper version, man. They all freaking just cheaped out, and it's noticeable. They're not the Sabret hot dogs, but there were some. If you could find the ones that legitimately still use Sabret hot dogs, man, there's nothing like a Sabret hot dog. But you also have Papaya King, great papaya.
There's like one of those left. I mean, they're going by the wayside. It's really a shame.
Yeah, so
I
there's
had
some
them
good
once,
hot
but
dogs.
they were great.
But just to not play games and not mess around, when I visit New York, we always take the train to Coney Island and we just get our Nathans, and that's just the best of the best.
And for me, my go-to when I'm over there is 2 pepper and onion dogs with mustard. I don't know what it is. It's hard to find the pepper and onion dog, but the combo of that on the dog to me is really amazing. But the tough thing is when you're buying Nathan's hot dogs in the stores, because there's so many different varieties, but it's like different. Nathan's hot dogs taste more authentic than other Nathan's hot dogs. Like for me, you gotta look for. I think the Angus ones are pretty good, but like the regular ones, the bigger than the buns, to me they're just not the same. I can't explain what it is, but if you could find also like the restaurant style that are more like the snap as opposed to like the round ends. That makes a big difference. Look at the ends of the hot dogs. You want that tight pinched end on the end. It has a more authentic taste. I can't tell you why, but the difference is absolutely noticeable.
Yeah. And Boogie Down, so he knows I know my food, man. I don't play. But I got to tell you, in North Carolina, me and my wife had it the other day. I told about it. Near the NC State campus is a place called Clues. Clues of Coney Island, and this guy is from Detroit, and he imports like the other great city in America for hot dogs, high quality, other than Brooklyn and New York and the boroughs, is Detroit, and he brings down these incredibly natural cased hot dogs. He slow grills them, and it is just a classic hot dog. It's actually second in my book. It's second to Nathan's. But the one thing they don't have that I think somebody was mentioning is the Nathan's fries, because there's nothing like going to Coney Island and getting those fries. Rumor has it they haven't changed the oil since 1918, and they just make it work.
Well, now we know how they make it work. Crinkle cut's a tricky thing. They could either be really good or really disappointing. Nathan's does them well. I like them the thinner side of the Nathan's fries because I want to taste the crispiness. Yeah. Marion Barber. He was found in his apartment in Frisco, Texas. I haven't heard anything about a cause, but he didn't play for a long time. But when he did, he was a fun running back to watch. He played reckless. He played aggressive, and he was like a little battering ram. Not the biggest guy, but he gave it everything he had for the time that he did have. And when you hear about some of these guys passing away, and they're even younger than you are. It really starts to hit home that much more. And, I've got 2 years on Marion Barber, and it's just like, oh my God, how fragile and how fleeting is life. So rest in peace, Marion Barber, and all the best to his family.
We've had a couple of tragedies these past couple of days for.
Jeremy, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, it must be that North Carolina reception you got down there.
No, I know. I'm having some internet issues. But anyway, we've had a couple of tragedies. We should probably get Dom C in here in case I get kicked out.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, Dom C, I think I sent you the link. Get your butt in here. Maybe I'll send it to Buffalo too. He could back us up a little bit if he's available. So,
guys, if you'd like to join, we're more than happy to have you on. We'll have a little, we'll do a little bit of a backup show. Be a little bit different, but hey, still the same energy.
Yeah, I've been having, because I was working here today too, and I was having some internet issues, so I can't guarantee I'm not going to get kicked off. So, yeah. And I'm assuming that because I haven't heard from him that Tigo had the baby. So I don't know that for a fact. I'm just assuming.
Oh yeah,
that
awesome.
Tigo may have had the baby because he's not here. He usually is. I haven't heard from him in a couple of days. I'm just guessing there's a chance that he did. So Gitmo has a funny comment here. So I sent it to Buffalo too. Just trying to get you some backup. Hopefully Dom C is listening or whatever. So he said he'd have our back.
Yeah, worst case, yeah. If not, we'll go through the chat. I got a few different things that we could talk about tonight if you like. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
know
just
you
some
had. I
interviews.
know you had some ideas. So I'm actually, now that we're done talking about food and getting all the pleasantries out of the way, we spent 20 minutes and we haven't even mentioned the Jets, and yet people aren't like at my throat, which is just incredible. Um, he's saying he said plug the Ethernet directly into the chair. I don't have the magical chair. Adam does.
You know, my chair was invented before electricity.
So
The chair. I will say this: the chair is here. The chair is here. So
bring it, Buffalo. I just tweeted it to you. So yeah. Anyway, you had some ideas. I want you to run the show. Once we get some other guys in here, I'll be in and out because I could tell I'm having internet issues. I also want to check on my wife and make sure I'm not being a bad guest in the house that I'm in. So, but what you have in mind today, tell everybody. I'm excited to see what you have in mind. You had some ideas.
well, I want to talk about like some random questions and also kind of look at the off season compared to other teams and where we think the Jets rank overall as far as that goes. So, if we look at this off season, if we think about the different things that we've done since the Super Bowl with free agency, with the draft, and other things like that, where do we put the Jets? So, if we think about some of these teams that have had the best off seasons, who are some of the teams that we think of? Now, for me, I think the Jets. You easily put them in the top 10, probably even better than that. I think you could make a case for top 5, but I'm just going to give you a couple of teams here and see what you think. I think some of the teams that have done the best this offseason, you got to give some love to Philadelphia. Between AJ Brown, getting him at the draft, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, getting James Bradbury for nothing but cash from the Giants, from a division rival, to me was really, really impressive. And he was the Giants' best defensive player for the last 2 years. Keeping Nick Barnett, signing Hassan Reddick, to me, you can make a case Philadelphia might have had the best offseason of anybody in the league. I think Philly's been right up there. Certainly, Baltimore, not just with their draft, where they drafted so many guys that we had heard of, but signing Marcus Williams, Morgan Moses, they kept Calais Campbell, they kept Patrick Ricard. I think the one thing that I would knock them on is their tackle depth. Not their tackle depth, their wide receiver depth. But I would put Baltimore right in there in the mix. Denver, just because they got Russell Wilson. I mean, in my opinion, still a top 5 quarterback in the league when he's got the right pieces around him. Plus Randy Gregory, plus DJ Jones. And I was talking for weeks about how bad I wanted DJ Jones on the Jets. Well, Denver's the one who signed him. So you got to put the Broncos in there. The Chargers, to me, I think they're right there with the Jets between signing J.C. Jackson, drafting Zion, trading for Khalil Mack. I think that's one of the moves that we've really forgotten about is that the Chargers pulled off a trade to get Khalil Mack. So they didn't have as many big moves, but they still had some very impactful moves between Jackson and Mack. And then I think the only other one I would really put up there is Tampa and that was mostly of who they kept. They kept Godwin. They kept Carlton Davis. They kept Ryan Jensen. They did lose a few players, but you can make a case that Tampa Bay had a good offseason. And I think we're right there with those teams. I really can't think of another team. So to me, between Denver, Philadelphia, San Diego, I'm still going to call them San Diego, and I really don't care. Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and the Jets. I would say those are the 6 teams that had the best off seasons. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I think sometimes we become very like tunnel vision when you're a fan, right? And you focus on your team and what your team did, and you kind of just hear other things that teams are doing, but you don't really focus on every move that they did. Like you hear about it each time. Oh yeah, we saw that they drafted that player, and they, and you don't really pay attention fully to the other team. You don't know what they needed. We don't know the intricacies of that team and how their fans, if you knew their team, knew, man, if we just had a cornerback, another wide receiver to complement, Devontae Smith and a linebacker, whatever it is, we would be amazing, and like they're thinking the same thing, and they now on paper see themselves as having this amazing team. So we get focused on our own team and think that we're the only team that had a great offseason. But there, as from what you're saying and what you pay attention, you kind of think about what teams are doing. Other teams had really good off seasons too. Other teams got really good too, which is why I hate the Main Street, the beat, because some of them are such cop outs. They just take the same teams every year from the year before. They do no analysis, no predictions. They're not bold. They're not willing to look at what other teams are doing and make bold statements. But I have some friends from Philly, and I actually watched some of them last year, and I actually think they're an up and coming team. And I think with the additions they made, that fan base has every right to be very, very excited.
Yeah, I would think so too. I think Dallas and Philadelphia are going to have a great race for the NFC East. It's going to be really, really fascinating. And Dallas always has a way of breaking their fans' hearts. It might be week 17 or week 18, or it might be week 1 or the first game of the playoffs. But in one of those 2 weeks, they'll always rip their fans' hearts out. Philly's so good, they may not even make it that far. I feel that good about Philadelphia. I'm still not sold on their coach. He still has quite a bit to prove, and Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove as well. Philadelphia and the Jets actually do have a little bit in common in that you got to really like that supporting cast, but the quarterback still has something to prove. So there's some big similarities there. Let's see. Chiefs in the clutch. Adam, sorry we took Leo Chanel. We forgave you already a little while ago. It's okay. Don't worry. You can let him go, and we'll show you how to use him correctly. It's all good. Okay. Yeah, people talking a little bit about tackle depth and how we're feeling. So the chat's having a little back and forth about that. And, for me, I feel very good about it right now. Now, we are going off the assumption that
Becton is frozen, or I think This is being.
Oh, no, I'm frozen?
And Buffalo's trying to get on. We're having some serious trouble.
I don't think I'm frozen.
Can you see Buffalo?
I can see Buffalo, yeah.
Okay, I can't, so I'm the one having problems.
Hey, Jeremy, I don't think I'm frozen.
You look good to me, Adam. Jeremy, you're breaking up to me.
Same. Exactly. Point proven. Okay.
What did I come into? I missed like the last 5 minutes of conversation while I was getting on.
That's okay. We're talking a little bit about off seasons and where the Jets rank in the pantheon of these other teams. And
you guys mentioned Philly just now. I think I heard.
Yeah, Philly was the first team I mentioned, and I'm just seeing a lot of similarities between Philadelphia and the Jets in that the quarterback and the head coach have something to prove, but both teams have really upgraded the supporting cast, so to speak.
I like Philly. I don't think it's crazy to think that Philly might win that division this year with Dallas with that top heavy roster. They're always an injury or two away from taking a big step back. And is Jalen Hurts the best quarterback in that division? No, but he's probably the best quarterback value in that division. Him making a rookie second round contract, a guy whose passing ability is maybe like 20th, 22nd in the league, but can then give you 800, 900 yards on the ground. They picked up James Bradbury, I believe. They obviously made the trade for AJ Brown with the second year Devontae Smith. They got a squad in Philly for sure.
Son Reddick, they signed him in free agency, and if Nakobe Dean is healthy, that'll probably be the best value pick of the whole draft potentially. Yeah. So, well, we'll see if Jeremy comes back, but if not, I guess it'll be the AB show here between Adam and Buffalo. So we'll just roll with it, and we'll be all right here. Okay, so let's see what else is going on over here. We're also getting into tackle depth a little bit on how excited we feel about that. Oh, Iowa Jets fan, you're here, so just want to let you know, having my first drink, And we got the Jets wine stopper, because although I don't know why if you're a Jets fan you even need a wine stopper, because you typically got to go through the bottle in one night. But that's neither here nor there. But it's tasting good, and thank you very much. So I think we can agree that the tackle depth looks pretty good on this team with a healthy Mekhi Becton. But if let's just say we don't have Becton to start the season, how are we, Buffalo? How would you want to see us have our tackle depth? And is there somebody else out there that we could potentially look at if Becton does get hurt again?
I think even if Becton doesn't get hurt, I think the two positions that Joe Douglas definitely addresses with the post June 1st cuts, I think you see him at a linebacker, and I think you see him at a tackle. Max Mitchell, I like them taking that pick, a developmental swing tackle in the 4th round. But I always like to look at this from if you were from the perspective of another team, right? Say Max Mitchell got drafted by, I don't know, the Cleveland Browns. Most Jets fans would never know who he was. I didn't come across his name a lot in the pre-draft prep that I did. And we're facing the Browns, and you say, oh, hey, they're starting a 4th round pick rookie named Max Mitchell at right tackle. I'm feeling good about that as the opponent. So that means I'm probably not feeling too good about that if I'm the Jets. So maybe Max Mitchell proves us wrong. So ideally, we bring in a veteran to be our primary swing tackle while Max Mitchell develops. And then maybe in 2023, Max Mitchell, you plug him in as the primary swing tackle. And if he can be that a year later, that's a good pick in the 4th round. I know Fisher. He's a free agent. He's probably a guy who's maybe waiting to see if a starting job shakes loose. It's tough because a good swing tackle, we saw this with Morgan Moses. It's pricey. You know, you got to shell out $5 or $6 million to one of these guys, but I really, really do think it's worth it. Now, what I like about our tackle position heading into this year that is better than last year is now with Becton and Fant being the presumed starters, they both can play left tackle and right tackle, which wasn't the case last year with Moses and Fant, because Moses could only play right tackle. So when Fant went down, we saw the likes of Adoga and McDermott on the field. But this year, say if Fant starts at left tackle and Becton's at right, if Fant goes down, you probably kick Becton over to the blind side, and then you plug Max Mitchell in at right tackle. So now we're multiple injuries away from the blind side of Zach Wilson being vulnerable. That being said, few things get you beat faster in the NFL than being weak at tackle. So it would be a shame to put all of this into this rebuild and then, be losing games specifically because we didn't add that one more player for $5 million.
I think the truth is with tackle depth, we have 2 guys that we feel comfortable if they're healthy and on the field. One guy's a bit of an unknown, and there's 2 guys we want no part of. I think we right now trust Connor McDermott as a backup tight end more than we do as an offensive tackle based off last season. So, yeah, let's see here. I was poisoning Y2K like Lady Lena poisoned Joffrey at the wedding. I can see why you used that reference, Mark. Well done. Oh, welcome back. It looks like he changed studios and he brought a friend with him. How we doing, Dom?
Howdy, boys.
I brought a friend.
What up?
What's happening?
Man.
Well, nice to be here.
It's good to have you. Dom, we're talking a little bit about the depth at the offensive tackle position right now. Now, I'm thinking that we trust Becton and we trust Fant, and you can play him at left or right. Either way, you can go with that. Drafting Mitchell turned out to be pretty pivotal because we couldn't go back into the season with McDermott and Adoga as our 3 and 4. So my question is, if Becton does go down at any point or Fant goes down, are you comfortable plugging in Max Mitchell as a rookie at this point in the game?
No, I'm not. As much as I do like Max Mitchell. He wasn't drafted to see the field this early. He's drafted as our long-term project, not project, but our long-term fix, whether it be at the swing tackle or if he develops himself into a full right tackle in the NFL. I think that's what it is. And it's funny because Green Bean just posted an article I wrote on greenbeanjetsfan.com. Not a shameless plug here. But I touched on a bunch of stuff, and my number one area, or free agent that I think would make sense for us most was a tackle, a very good veteran swing tackle in that sense, and Riley Reef. I like the idea of having a guy like that who has experience playing both left and right side. You know, in essence, you know, if God forbid if he went down, if Mekhi Becton goes down or George Fant doesn't live up to what he was last year, we have somebody that we can plug in and play right away without any issues, without any worries. You know, that 1 year, $5 million contract that we signed to Morgan Moses last year was.
T-shirt still on.
I'm getting.
I think someone's got a TV on in the background, guys.
Sounds like
Oh, sorry, just me. I just had another tab open. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
Oh, that was creepy. I thought it was my phone. I was like, oh. But yeah, Moses was like a godsend. That signing made, you know, it helped so much, right? It eased the pain of not having that tackle, you know, that stud left tackle that we brought in 2 year, you know, in Mekhi Becton. It made that transition a lot easier. That's exactly what we need. I'm not a huge Chuma Edoga guy. We can be free of Chuma Edoga after this year. 900, you know, save ourselves $960,000. You know, Connor McDermott, I think I came in at him and you were saying he's best suited to catch touchdown passes and those freak plays there. Let's leave it at that. And let's develop Max Mitchell. Let's not depend on Max Mitchell this year. That's my take.
I think that's a good point. Jeremy, what do you think?
Jeremy's frozen.
I'm having
for that answer.
I'm having all kinds of issues. But what do I think of what? Just give me a little fresher upper.
What are your thoughts if we had to play Max Mitchell as a rookie at some point this season? Like
I would be very uncomfortable. He's unproven. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen at camp. We might hear amazing things, and that they don't even know what to do. He looks so good that they want to get him in the game somehow. You know, anyway, but. Outside of that, it's very uncomfortable. He's a 4th round pick that could eventually be a starting tackle in the league. Fine, but he's definitely a project. He's definitely a developmental guy. You know, he's not a 1st round pick, 2nd round pick where your expectation is to be a plug-in starter. So, do I think it's definite that he won't be able to play well? Of course not. Guys have come in and shocked, you know, all the time. But I'm not going to be comfortable with it. A guy goes down and he comes jogging onto that field. I'm going to say, oh, shit.
So what I would say is this. We have to look at our remaining cap space. From what I'm seeing on overthecap.com, the Jets have just a shade under $10 million left to spend if they wanted to do that. Now, we know Joe Douglas likes to save a little bit of space because he wants, you know, carry a little bit of room. You never know what might happen during the course of a season. You might want to take another player on. So you got to be pretty selective if you're going to sign somebody, what position you're going to go after, and it has to be the right player. But I can give you a couple of different names, some offensive tackles who are still not signed. And how about we do like a little bit of a quick around the horn? I'll give you guys a name and tell me if this is a guy who you would be interested in the Jets signing. Some of these might be comical, but we'll see if there's anybody here that we can agree on. Okay, so first we'll just keep going the same. We'll go Dom, then Buffalo, and then Jeremy. So we'll just keep going that direction. First guy who's available is Nate Solder.
A hard pass. Thanks. I watched too many Giants games. Hard pass.
Yeah. Right. Buffalo?
Yeah. I'd like to get a guy. Soldier, he's got to be almost 35, right?
He's 34. Yes.
Yeah, and he's like crazy tall. He's like 6'7" or 6'8". Mainly, I don't know. I just feel like I'd want a guy who is more comparable to the skill sets that we have in house and is a little bit in that, you know, maybe 32, 31 years old.
Jeremy, any interest in 110 Solder?
I'd pass on that too. I'm not very interested.
Look at any name that's interesting. Well, Brandon Shell, we used to have him. Apparently, he still has not been signed. Only 30 years old. Is he worth bringing back maybe on a 1 or 2 year deal as a little bit of depth? What do you think?
Well, again, dovetailing on what Buffalo said, I don't know if Brandon Shell's a true fit. He's more of a power scheme blocking type and not very good at that. He's very middling. I don't know how much of an improvement Brandon Shell is over a guy like Chuma Doga, who I think is just a guy himself. So, I mean, gun to my head, if it's yes or no, I'll say no, because I think there's better tackles still available out there. Like I said, Riley Reef, I know, is still available.
Yes.
Eric, I think what's his name?
Eric Fisher.
Fisher.
Eric Fisher's available too.
In terms of resume.
Yeah. Better resume, better scheme fits.
Yeah, I wouldn't want Shell either. Would he be an upgrade at right tackle over rookie Max Mitchell? Sure, but if we're going to spend the money on a guy, I want a guy who can play left and right. So I want a guy who has more starts at left tackle than Shell.
Yep.
Makes sense. I'll give you one other name. We mentioned Eric Fisher and Riley Reef. I think those two make some sense. How about Brian Balaga? 33 years old, longtime Packer, most recently with the Chargers.
Can he stay healthy is the question I have with Balaga. I mean,
I think the tab just opened up.
If it's Jeremy, it's got to be Jeremy because every time he goes on mute, I don't know. Okay.
Balaga, if Balaga could stay healthy, he'd probably still be with San Diego right now. So I think that's very telling on what he is or where he is in his stage of his career. Wonderful player when he was at Green Bay. Again, I don't know, and I think he spends most of his time. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think he's more so a dedicated right tackle.
A little more right tackle, especially this stage.
He doesn't have that swing abilities that I think is of paramount importance. If we're going to bring in a veteran plug and play tackle, he's got to, I think he's got to be scheme fit. He's got to be able to adjust or adapt or be familiar with the zone blocking schemes that we put out there, and he's got to be able to step in at left or right tackle seamlessly.
But maybe in the future. You don't need to say.
If you're looking at a swing tackle, I guess I could throw one. By the way, it's almost sad that Cameron Clark is still on this list. It's just like, can we just put him out of his misery? God bless him, but it hurts to see his name on this free agency list. Even Ode Ibushi is a guy who I'm actually pretty amazed has been able to have a pretty okay career. He's managed to stick around. At this point, he's 30 years old. He's a guy that we gave up on pretty quickly. And he probably does have the ability to play either tackle position in a pinch. What about our old friend Ode Ibushi?
Well, I definitely couldn't do that other guy you said because he'd make me think of Bologna all the time. So I'd always want a bologna sandwich every time they said his name. So that would be a problem. I don't need these distractions. I'm trying to lose weight. So we have to we can only get guys that have names that aren't going to make me think of food.
Oh boy, yeah. So maybe we should get Brandon Shell because eventually you'll be a shell of yourself. Maybe we should go that direction.
And I'm not a fan of shellfish, so there you go.
That's right, the seafood thing. Yep, probably not a good idea. Yeah, I mean those are about the most interesting names. Darrell Williams from Buffalo. I mean, I don't know as much about him. I know he's a right tackle, but
yeah, and they played him at guard last year, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I mean, he'd be. Like he can play 4 different spots, so that's nice. But I think we're okay in terms of depth on the interior. I really want if we're gonna do it, I want a proven swing tackle, and I don't think he fits the bill for that.
To me, it sounds like Fisher and Reef are about the only guys. So yeah, we really talk about wanting a little more depth of tackle, but the pickings are slim once you get to the month of June. But hey,
yeah, there's the guy who was on with Chicago who's 40 years old now. Who's it? He's a Peters?
Yes, Jason Peters.
Jason Peters.
He's still available. Yeah, still available. Another hard pass.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. I don't think we need Jason Peters on this team.
Listen, I'd like to see what happens if there's any post-June 1st cuts that come about at the tackle position. But I'd be remiss to say that it's not concerning to me. The lack of true tackle depth is a little concerning right now.
Can I ask you a question, Dom?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Say in a pinch, say worst case scenario, Fant and Becton both injured, which we did have a game like that last year, right? Last game of the year. Now that we brought in Lakin Tomlinson, is it crazy to think that out of desperation, AVT plays left tackle and then Herbig plays guard? Is AVT at left tackle and Herbig at guard better than AVT at guard and McDermott or Adoga on the blind side?
Oh boy, you know what? It's a really good question. It's a fair question, and I think you can make an argument either way. I mean, in a pinch, depending on you got to look at the big picture also. Like, what's the situation? Is it week 15 and we're fighting for that 6th or 7th spot that we really need to make a move to put something tangible to still continue a run, or are we 4-12 and the season's over and maybe you get the shot at that point, you let Max Mitchell come in and Adoga play the ends and whatever happens. If it's the previous, then the latter, and we're still pushing for stuff. I think at that point you make that decision to bring AVT over. I mean, he's good where he's at. I don't really like the whole shuffling, juggling of offensive linemen, but in a situation where you lose both of your tackles and you're still fighting for the playoffs, I think anything's on the table. I think anything would be on the table. So, if it's your best 5 that you put out there, yeah, that might include AVT moving outside and Herberg or Feeney moving inside, so on and so forth. It's not ideal. Let's fingers crossed that we don't ever have to think about that.
Look, honestly, did Adoga play that poorly at the end there and when he came in?
Athletically overwhelmed.
Okay.
He doesn't have the chops.
Okay, because I only watched live in the game. I never got to really check out the tape and really look at it.
Yeah, never been a Chuma Adoga fan at all.
Okay.
I think McDermott was actually better than Adoga, honestly. And they're both pretty bad.
It's not saying much, but I mean, a little bit better. I mean, having 2 cents is better than being broke, I guess.
From a financial aid advisor.
Yes, I had to probably had to explain that to somebody the other day. They probably still asked me to re-explain it, but I'm used to it. It's all right. Okay, let's see what I have. We're all rare breed. Optimistic Jets fans love it. For years, I thought I might be the only one. Thanks, guys, for all your content. We'll always be listening and supporting your endeavors. Well, we appreciate that, Boozer32. You know what? Jets fans tend to be their most optimistic during the summertime. Just let us know if we're still optimistic come late September and October, because that's when we really want to start to be optimistic, because it's been a pretty long time since we've been able to do that. I'd say this. We're perpetually a cautiously optimistic group, hopeful group, hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. That's where we've been for a long, long time. But I think now we're starting to see the fruits of Joe Douglas's plan. And now we're not just hoping that Sam Darnold will be the right quarterback or something like that, trying to convince ourselves while we still see him make the same mistakes over and over again. We're seeing a team built in a way that makes sense, that is conducive to a collective vision. Now, we still have more to see. There's still players who have to prove themselves, but we can see the overall direction. And if you have to change a player here and there over the course of the season and next season, that's okay. But these players are buying into what these coaches are preaching, and that gives me the optimism that I have right now. And I think most of us on the panel, that's one of the main reasons why we do have hope for the future of the New York Football Jets.
Well said, Adam. I like it.
Amen.
So, mic drop.
Yeah. Not much to add to that, brother.
Yeah, you covered it, man.
When you have this much inside you after all of these years, you have to force yourself to have a little bit of hope, because, it's very easy to stay in the negativity. It's so easy. But if you stay there, what's it going to take for you to be optimistic? You can't just only be optimistic when they're winning 14 games a season. You have to appreciate the ride up. It's like I see some of these teams and they're like, we're Super Bowl or bust this year. Well, okay, Super Bowl or bust, that's great. Well, what fun is that? Really? Where's the surprise? Where's the excitement in that? If you get to the Super Bowl and then you lose, and you would really consider that a horrible season? I mean, I can't imagine becoming so entitled as a sports fan in any sport, but certainly with the Jets, where, I mean, do Cincinnati fans think that they had a disappointing season last year because they just fell a few points short to a great team? I don't think so. So
I don't think any fan, besides
Right up.
maybe like during the peaks of the Patriots dynasty, I don't know if any NFL franchise with the parity of the league could really legitimately have that mindset.
Well,
and all they had to do-
the 49ers of the late 90s and like from the mid to late 90s, the 49er fans were called the 40 whiner fans. They wanted to fire coaches and cut people because they only made the playoffs and lost the NFC Championship game. They became very, very entitled. So it does happen. But I mean, I don't see how it can happen to a team that's not there, that gets there, that takes a big step forward. Look, I want the Rangers to make the Stanley Cup Finals. If they were to somehow fall apart and lose this series and not make it, after recovering from that disappointment after a few days, I would look back and say, "Wow, what a great." That's not a disappointing season for the Rangers. This, like it's an amazing season. They turned it around and now they're contenders. So, I don't see how anybody can complain or say that it's Super Bowl or bust.
And then on the opposite end of that, we have Kelly Wilson here. I would rather not make the Super Bowl, honestly.
I disagree with that completely.
Kelly, my question, I'm really curious to your mindset. Now, I'm sure I could imagine there'd be a lot of stress being on the grandest stage of them all, only to fall short. You're worried that we would be like the butt of a joke, like a bigger joke than whatever the halftime show likely would be that season. But why else are we football fans? Why are we still rooting for this team? Isn't it to, I mean, the community, of course, but isn't what we ultimately want more than anything is to see this team make and then, dare I even say, win the Super Bowl? What else are we really going for if we're not, what is the goal of this plan? What is the goal of these drafts? What is the goal of free agency? The mini camps, the training camp, the exhibition games, all these regular season games when we're rooting our hearts out for this team, when we want them to win, when we're screaming at the referees, we're screaming at the coaches, we're screaming at the other players. What's it all about? Is it not about seeing a team that can win as many games as possible so they can ultimately be the best team in the freaking league? The ultimate goal of this thing is a Super Bowl and maybe multiple Super Bowls. Because after all we've been through, why shouldn't our expectations be high? Why shouldn't our hopes be high? We've suffered enough, and we deserve the rewards on the same exact level. So, Kelly, I'm just really curious, man. I'm genuinely curious about your mindset. What is it that you truly want, if not a Super Bowl?
The heartbreak. I think of getting to the Super Bowl, 2 weeks of the anticipation and losing, we'd be heartbroken. But I think you got to be down for that ride, and I'd rather us so basically, essentially, would I rather lose an AFC Championship game than lose a Super Bowl? No, I'd want to win that. I want to get as far as we can go.
And just to have the season extended. I mean, it would suck to lose that last game of the Super Bowl. We'd all be disappointed and everything. But it's still 2 weeks of still being alive. We get to play as long a season as you can possibly play. We made it to the last possible game. That's the goal. You want to win at the end, but if you lose, it's still better than any other result. It's losing in the playoffs, then we don't even get to be alive. We have to watch two other teams have the excitement and the build up to the Super Bowl. That's absolutely crazy. I want to win every game and extend the season as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, I think, I mean, along with you guys, I think there's a big difference. If you get to a Super Bowl and lose, it's disappointing, but it's far from a disappointment. And I think that's where I think that's where you got to draw the line. Any team that's competitive, which we haven't had, let's be frank, we haven't seen or had in a long, long time, right? Any team that's competitive is not a disappointment, right? You can be disappointed if the end result isn't what you ultimately wanted, or be sad that your team lost. But progress is progress is still progress, right? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for enough progress to bring us to the echelon, to the top, to the opportunities to play for Super Bowls. There's 32 teams, right? There's 32 teams in the league. It's not very easy that you can come down to be the best or one of the final two. So
yeah, I am so thankful for my time in 09 and 2010 when I got to go to both Indianapolis playoff games, even though they lost one of them and I walked out of Lucas Oil Stadium absolutely miserable. To this day, I don't even know how I didn't get arrested. They threatened to arrest me because I dropped one curse word. Okay. That's the type of stuff that I'm not kidding. They tasered Jets fans in the parking lot. It was before the game, let alone after the game. I wouldn't change a moment of my body literally shaking. Like literally, I could not stop it shaking as Nick Folk kicked the game-winning field goal through the uprights, and I was right behind the goalpost as it happened. I wouldn't change a second of being in that bit of my basement and the place I was living at the time, watching the last 5 minutes of the Jets-Patriots game with my jaw on the floor because I couldn't really believe we were going to beat the New England Patriots. Still the best feeling victory that I have ever had as a football fan. These are amazing memories, and we didn't even get to a Super Bowl. We didn't even get there yet. Just the ride and having these moments. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy moments, whether it's the Music City Miracle, the Minneapolis Miracle, all kinds of crazy moments that can happen. Yes, we ultimately want that Super Bowl, but enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, and don't leave your happiness for only when that happens, because there's no guarantee it's going to happen. Stupid injuries, ridiculous luck, all kinds of crazy things can derail a season. Because if only one fan base at the end of the year is going to be truly satisfied, and we know this. But take in the memories that you get as it comes along, because it's all part of the ride. We hold on to these negatives more than we hold on to the positives. If you ask Jet fans, what do you remember most as a Jets fan? What are we going to talk about? The Mud Bowl, the Spike game, Week 17 against Buffalo, the Cleveland double overtime disaster. These are the things that we're going to talk about most often. The butt fumble, of course, the most overrated play in NFL history. To this day, I will argue that. So you got to hold on to these positives when you have them, and we haven't had many. But I got a feeling we're going to have some pretty interesting ones coming up this year and in the next couple of years. Kelly, that's just me as a person. I've always tried to be number one. We all do. That's why I was pissed when Wilson was picked number 2. I want to win. Well, you know what? Jerry Rice wasn't the first wide receiver picked in his draft class. Joe Montana wasn't the first quarterback picked in his class. You know what? The best isn't always first. So let's see how it proves out over the course of time, man. Just hang in there. Hang in there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Hey, chat. Let's see what else you're talking about here. Let's see.
Tony G, I want to touch on Tony G's comment there.
Go ahead.
Get Jeremy up to 1,500 subs, and he will get tased.
You know what? If we had a super chat option for enough chats, I'd have another drink of wine. You know, we could do something like that, but unfortunately, we're a little bit away from that. We actually do have ideas of super chats forever to become a thing on this channel. Different ideas that I think would be pretty interesting. Jeremy is busy voting on his favorite housewife of New Jersey. Oh, boy. Let's see. Sean, Kelly, do you think last year would have been better if we had Trevor Lawrence? I doubt it. Sorry. Yeah, I think it would have been a wash. You know, the only difference is Trevor Lawrence did have the unbelievable disaster that was Urban Meyer. So, other than that, I don't think there's too drastic of a difference. So, do you guys think the team would have been much different last year if Trevor Lawrence had been the quarterback instead of Zach Wilson?
I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot more questions than answers when it comes to Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance. So, out of those 4, not all 4 of them are going to be busts. Not all 4 of them are going to hit. And you can look at the numbers through whatever lens that you want and make the case for either of them. With Trevor, look, he had 28 combined interceptions and fumbles to Zach's 16. And their touchdowns are about the same, even though Trevor played a few more games. Isn't it interesting, though, to have fans of other teams speaking about what the Jets had last year, like with envy, when Jack Sargent was like, oh, no, the Jets had it way better last year. It's like, so you know that team was in pretty bad shape. I think Urban Meyer unseated Adam Gase as the worst NFL head coach of the last decade. I like Trevor, but I don't think any of those four guys that I mentioned would have moved the needle more than a win in either direction for any franchise they were with.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. Okay. Just to respond to John Nolte, did you used to live in New York? I think we're trying to do multiple comments at once here. Let's try this again. Maybe I'm right-clicking. There we go. Jeremy, hands off. All right. There we go. Did you used to live in New York? No, I've never lived in New York itself. I've always been a Jersey guy up until I moved out. Nick Shine and I lived not far from each other, and I think Mark isn't too far from where I grew up either. So in that central Jersey area. So that's where I am from. And then I moved to Chicago when I was 16 years old, and I haven't been living in the New York area since. How's the wine? Honest opinion? Honest opinion, it's a good summer red. That's how I would describe this. This isn't like a deep red you would have with like grilled meats or, a good steak or a hearty pasta. This is something you'd probably have on its own. There we go. Still got the wine stopper in. And unfortunately, no, Jeremy did not get to have a taste. We were able to see each other Saturday, or on Sunday, but Monday did not work out, unfortunately. So, but he's still doing okay with his culinary travels over this vacation. So I don't think he's going to be feeling very deprived. So, let's see.
So I got a question for you guys here and the chat as well. I know we talked about swing tackle, or at least I mentioned how I think swing tackle is of, kind of high up the ladder on stuff that, or positions or things that we still really need to tweak. We're probably not done tweaking, or you can even consider it still a need. Where else on the roster do you guys feel similar? Where are the needs?
So for me, if I had one need, for me, I want a linebacker. I've been wanting a linebacker since the beginning of the offseason. I felt I could have made a good case for them to both draft a linebacker and sign a linebacker. Instead, they traded one away. Granted, one who plays about 2-3 games a season, so addition by subtraction. But at the same time, Quincy Williams, I think, might be one of those players who could be a real wild card for this team. That, when we talk about the players who are going to make the biggest difference for this team, it's Zach Wilson, it's Mekhi Becton. You could throw in a couple of other guys in there as well. I think Quincy Williams, they're asking a lot out of him. So, when he makes those highlight plays, they're great. But when he blows a play, it could be very, very damaging. So if they believe that he is that good, then that's great. But I don't know, not sure. And even if so, CJ Mosley's getting up there a little bit. I don't think he'll be here past this season. So to me, it was very surprising that they didn't, at the very least, draft a linebacker that they could develop, or, that Mosley could help mentor for the season. There's some guys that I liked. Mike Rose, I felt, would have been a good guy to target, and he would have been an undrafted free agent. Didn't work out. But you know what? They did upgrade the defense at more pivotal positions, and I think part of that will be the attempt to camouflage the lack of depth at linebacker. We'll see how Sherwood and Nasrul Dean come back as. We'll see what Marcel Harris is. Yes, we are not going to ignore Marcel Harris. But I would like to see a linebacker, preferably one who can play the run effectively and blow up a screen pass. A good, speedy, off-ball linebacker. That's what I'm looking at. Deion Jones, anybody?
Well, you might have that in DQ Thomas. We still don't know.
DQ, possibly.
DQ played a little bit more traditional Mike in college. Now, granted, he played at a small school, Middle Tennessee State. but he's got enough lateral sideline to sideline movement. He comes downhill, he plays downhill very well. So I would like to see what or if he can develop into some. And the pickings are bare right now in the free agent market. If we're talking traditional linebackers, the cupboard's kind of bare. I mean, we talked Deion Jones. Deion Jones is a nice player. He's still, not your quasi, and I hate to use the word traditional again, but he's not your real traditional, in the box linebacker. Right? I think the best guy, if you're talking, traditional linebacker that's still available, and I don't know how much how much interest there really would be in him for the Jets, is a guy like Joe Schobert.
Yep. Yeah, he would be a great fit because I honestly wouldn't mind adding 2 linebackers. And I've been harping on this for a week, so I'll keep it short. But obviously, my concern is twofold. One is being able to cover at the linebacker position. None of our linebackers covered well last year. I really, really like Quincy Williams on first and second down.
Mm-hmm.
I love his speed. I love his ability to rush the passer. He's physical. Can some of that over pursuing get out of position? Can he be coached up on that? Will the overall improvement around him in a defense make him and CJ not have to play hero ball and just do their job? Yeah. But we just got killed in the screen game and we couldn't cover tight ends. So Quan Alexander would be a great fit. But then if CJ Mosley goes down, he was durable last year, but before that, he missed 2 straight seasons. And when he missed the Patriots game, we were getting blown off the ball. So putting in a Sherwood or Hamza at 215, 220 pounds soaking wet as the Mike. And then if we do that, we're having 7 guys on our defense, 225 pounds or less. Where are they doing that at? That's inventing a new defense. That doesn't exist in the NFL. So a Joe Sherbert, a guy who was a Pro Bowler back in the day, he's got 5 seasons with over 100 tackles. Now he was a starter with Pittsburgh last year, started pretty much every game. So does he want to look for a starting opportunity? I don't know. He's 30 years old. A guy like AJ Harris from Denver, AJ Klein from Buffalo, I think would be great because he basically played that same role with them. He was a backup middle linebacker to Tremaine Edmonds out of the 4-2-5 base. Buffalo pretty much ran nickel 90% of the time. So he came in there, filled in admirably for Milano or Edmonds when he was called upon. He's not going to make a ton of big plays, but he's a veteran. He's going to be in his spots, know his job. So I wouldn't mind us bringing in a guy like that on the cheap and Quan Alexander. You look at those first 2 matchups, Baltimore and Cleveland. You're going to see a lot of multiple tight end sets, which might have to shake us out of that nickel and go 4-3. And, Sherwood, like I said, 215 pounds, a below average raw athletic score for a linebacker and undersized and coming off of an Achilles. I think you're feeling pretty good about him being on the field if you're Baltimore or Cleveland. So I'd like us to add a couple guys there.
Yeah.
And that wasn't short, so I lied. Sorry.
so you made an interesting point, though, that I'd like to kind of, maybe touch on or go, kind of venture off on. You talked about how stressed or how much pressure the linebackers had on them last year. CJ played, out of his mind at times, and at times even playing out of his mind. I thought personally watching him, play in and play out, there were some times where he was just completely blown out or overmatched. Now, I don't know if it's that our linebackers are that bad or the defensive front, the improvements that we have along the defensive line. Now we can provide pressure off the edge. We put some more, higher quality rotational pieces in the defensive line. That's going to give some relief to the linebackers to allow them to, play in free, freely in space and do the things they want. And, putting a guy like a Sherwood or a Hamza and Nasruddin, like I agree with you, still very raw, very untested, new to the position. The best way to give them the opportunity to excel is to, beef up around them, get better around them so that they can play free and let their athletic, prowess kind of step in. So, maybe the improvements that we've made in the front of the line and in the back will, in essence, improve the linebacker core as a whole. Because to me, listen, I hear you. I hear what everyone's saying. I find it hard to believe that we didn't address not the linebacker, not only in free agency, but especially in the draft. That's telling to me. That's telling that they really have confidence, or they have confidence in the guys that we have on this roster. Either that, or they're playing like the most insane game of chess while we're here playing checkers. So we don't.
Can
know.
I push back on that last comment though a little bit? Like it could be possible that the board fell in such a way that at the end of the day they couldn't fill every hole, and just linebacker was the the musical chair that got left empty, because I don't know, like that, and maybe I would rather have the hole be at linebacker than at right guard or at tight end or at edge. So it's possible that they're banking on a guy that we don't know about, but it's also possible that they're like, look, we had to flip this roster on its head. We got 3 new tight ends, we got 2, a new edge, we got a completely revamped corner room, got a new top 10 receiver, new running back, and we just didn't get to linebacker this year. Like that's possible too.
Yeah.
Linebacker could indeed be very damaging, but again, I think the base of this defense is going to be a 4-2-5. I just think that's what we're going to see more than any other format. I think you use Whitehead almost the way that he plays. He almost is another linebacker. He's sort of like that Adam Archuleta type of safety. So I think that's going to go a long way to really helping to eliminate some of these big plays, particularly these big running plays, these big screen passes, and limiting those Jonathan Taylor-esque runs. So Whitehead is one guy that I'm really counting on to make a big impact. I think that that's how they are really looking at him. So I'm trying to convince myself that the defense is going to be able to overcome, I think, these shortcomings on the run defense, and Whitehead is kind of the guy where I'm putting my chips to the middle of the table. That's who I'm betting on to make a huge impact. And it's also interesting. We were talking for quite a bit about, at one point, they got to replace Foley. They need that one technique. They need that big defensive tackle who can stop the run. You really don't hear anybody talking about that anymore. I think we're pretty much saying, okay, Quinnen, put JFM inside. Maybe we're keeping Sheldon Rankins. Maybe we're going to lose him and sign maybe an Ogunjobi, Nathan Shepard, guys like that. And let's see what it is. I mean, Solomon Thomas, I know they signed him, but he is all about being a pass rusher. He's not a run defender by any stretch of the imagination. Do you guys feel okay about the defensive tackle as far as stopping the inside run game? Do you think that this is something they can be competent at, or does this concern you going into the season?
What do you think, guys?
What's that?
What do we think?
I think, listen, I think this, as the scheme calls it, we know, the buzz today was Olberg talking about, guys are going to only play 30 to 35 snaps a day. That's hard line. There's, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But so I think that plays into it. I think that you have a healthy depth rotational, heavy rotation of guys that are going to be fresh coming in and out. And also remember the way the defensive scheme lines up. We don't need, Snacks Harrison in there. We don't need a guy that's going to, play 2 gap, true nose tackle in an odd man front. These guys are going to have 1 gap responsibility. We still have although he's not the, run stopper that Foley was, but you re-sign Nathan Shepard. I think he can fit in that mold. Again, he's not a guy that is – none of them are guys that are going to see the plays 50, 60, see the field for 50 or 60 plays. Right. But, in those situations, I think you have enough meat on the bone that can suffice, I'd like to see what Sheldon Rankins really can offer healthy, because he played dinged up last year. And I think the improvement that we have on both edges, hopefully Lawson comes back healthy, and the improvement that we've brought in on the edge rush is going to also help those guys. Adam, you made a point about JFM coming inside. That's also in play. But I think JFM is much more solidified as a run stopper on the outside, more so than in the middle. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to see a lot. I think you're going to see a lot more I don't know if it's Jonathan Marshall. I think you're going to see a lot more Solomon Thomas. I think you're going to see a lot more Sheldon Rankins. What happened? That was weird.
That was like the end of the intro to like every horror movie.
I was going to say,
it was like, no. Fade to black. Here's the intro. Here's the intro to the movie.
Oh, man.
Okay. Oh, here's the question for the chat. Who just invaded Jeremy?
Yeah.
I think Michael Clemens just stomped into the room.
That was all awkward. I'd like to see another guy, but I don't know if it's, I don't know how high up the pecking order a true run stuff in defensive tackle is at this point.
No, our base doesn't call for that. You're exactly right. So could we now, because all 4 guys on the starting front 4 have to be plus pass rushers. That's why Foley's not here anymore, in my opinion. But so the Snacks Harrisons like that, there's no role for that on this defense as a guy who plays the majority of the snaps. But maybe Shepard's the guy. Like, could we use a guy who we could rotate in goal line, short yardage, who plays 25% of the snaps, a 315-pound guy who can two gap sometimes. But I think all the points you laid out of how the run defense as a whole is going to be improved, Dom. I completely agree with that. So I'm not super worried. I'm not as worried there as I am at linebacker. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
Agreed. I would say linebacker is my biggest position of concern on this team, from top to bottom. And the keywords being top to bottom. I think even in terms of starters, I feel comfortable going into battle with, I believe, just about every single position on this team except that one, particularly on the off-ball side. Billy Seahawks 5, thanks for joining us. We definitely do appreciate it. Big Seahawks fan. We would like to thank you, being that you are a Seahawks fan.
I was hoping to get your guys' takes on that. What Don mentioned that Ulbrich said about the guys playing just 30 to 35% of the snaps, because it was kind of obvious that's what they did last year, but it was like trending on Jets Twitter today.
Yeah, it was all over. And I'd like to, I meant to do it. I just time got ahead of me today, so I didn't get to do it. But I wanted to go back and actually see if that stood, that pattern of that rotational 30 to 35 snaps a game held true with what San Francisco did.
I checked it out. No. And even guys like a guy like Eric Armstead, high 70s. So they had their ballers on the field. I don't know where this is coming from. To rotate guys in general, the principle of having a stable of guys you rotate in, I'm fine with that. But having Quinn Williams and Sheldon Rankins play the same number of snaps, I don't get that at all. And then that has to come into play when we're talking money.
Exactly. How are you going to pay $20 million to a guy who's going to be on the field for 30 plays a game?
It's crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
So I meant to look at that. I meant to see if there was some correlation at the San Francisco team on how they rotated. I mean, the rotation, I get it. It makes sense. You want to keep guys fresh. It brings it brings the guys being able to put 100% effort into the plays that are on the field, but you have to have extreme confidence or be just filthy deep to be able to be comfortable to say, all right, we're 8 deep, so we only have to run 25, 30 plays a game for these guys, and we're still going to get the same level of output. It just doesn't like the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And with the guys that we have right now, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And I guess who's doing that? Because I peeked around. I'm looking at all these defensive interiors and their snap counts. You even got like Leonard Williams, former Jet, 75%. Grady Jarrett, 75%. Armstead, I mentioned 75%. Obviously, guys like Buckner and Hayward, they're up at 80. Aaron Donald, level of his own, 85. John Franklin Myers and Quinn Williams are too good to not be playing at least 70% of the snaps. And he was very literal about it. Like he said, it's a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this defense needs to be playing hard and fast enough to not finish dead last in the NFL before Jeff Ulbrich starts inventing hard and fast rules on the defensive side of the football. That was a crazy take to me. And we saw it last year. Big plays. All of a sudden, Quinn Williams, JFM, jogging off the field, and like Tim Ward and Nathan Shepard are just just be, oh, it's our blow the whistle. It's our rotation time. Like when I was coaching CYO basketball, just to get all the kids the same amount of playing time. That's not, you can't coach in the NFL like that. Your best players have to play. You just gave John Franklin Myers, what was it, $55 million? And he's going to play the same amount as Vinny Curry? That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know how they're going to divide this playing time from game to game. Do you know what defensive lineman had the highest percentage of snaps in our last game last season?
No.
Ronald Blair. Okay.
Blair Witch Project. It's a horror show.
That's enough right there.
That's all you need to know. I mean, even Nathan Shepard, I think it was like the next to last game, he played 85% of the snaps in that game. And in no other game did he play more than 60%. So this coaching staff goes all over the map. But you can't tell me if Carl Lawson has like 3 sacks, going on in the game. Is that okay? You've hit your snap count for the game.
Yeah,
is this like pitch counts in baseball right now? We got to pull this guy after like 60 pitches. Is this the same philosophy? And now we're using it in football? Because if that's what we're doing, I got to tell you, I'm not liking this. I'm more worried about production than being fresh. And you know what? Some guys don't need that much rest. You might want to give them a few snaps off certain situations. That's fine. But aren't these guys supposed to be in a condition where they can play as many snaps as possible and still be productive? Because if this defensive lineman's kicking this offensive lineman's ass all day long, why would you take him off the field? Make the offensive lineman actually stop him.
The offensive lineman is going to play 100% of the snaps.
Well said. Yeah. Well said.
True. I just don't like I said, it in theory I get it, but in practical application it just it doesn't jive for me. You know what I mean? In theory, I want all 53 of my players to play, to be at the same level and exude the same output so that they can play 30% and we have an NFL professional CYO basketball team, where everyone's playing the same team and you're not going to have any dips in production or anything like that. But that's not the reality. So, so I don't know. And listen, the way he talked in his press conference, Ulbrich, that is, he seemed pretty steadfast in his word. Like that this wasn't even like a crazy theory or something like that. He was pretty definitive that this is what it's going to be. There's a hard line here. So that makes me think that, our defensive line that's constituted right now might not be what it is come September, Now, we've already talked about the swing tackle being a need. Maybe you do need to add one more person on the defensive line to keep pressure. And then even if you do that, who are you going to, how many are you going to keep active for game day? You're going to keep 12 guys active? That's not going to happen.
Where did Buffalo? Did Buffalo get cut off now too?
I guess so.
And Dom, I'm sorry, but I had to mute your biggest fan for 5 minutes because I'm not quite sure he's really your biggest fan. So I know.
Listen, the more you do, the more you. There he goes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Buffalo.
I was wondering if he was the Seahawks fan.
Wouldn't shock me. Yeah, I'm wondering if the same guy who got Jeremy was decided to go after Buffalo next. So Dom, you and I could be next at this rate. It's possible.
Well, if they off me, if the murderer comes and off me, you can have my my jet flag back there, Adam.
That sounds good. I am setting some stuff up in the other room for when I do videos. So I got a few ideas in mind, and a little more artwork would come in handy. So so that actually does sound pretty good.
I just picked up a signed and authenticated Wesley Walker jersey that I'm going to have framed and going to add to my little room here. This is like the cove of my basement, the finished portion. I got all the kids' junk on that side, so I'm going to kind of make my own little studio down here. It's nice.
Nice. Green jersey or white jersey?
Green.
Yeah. I always like the colored jerseys more than the white jerseys. I feel like when you wear a white every time I put on a white jersey, I'm worried I'm going to mark it up with something, It's like it's because to get those things clean, it's just brutal. So.
Yeah. Jets Fan United, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
And it's nice of you that you read it before you drank tonight. Some people need a drink to start reading my articles, but that's okay. All right. So, one glass. One glass of Iowa wine, and he starts offing his co-host. Imagine what's going to happen by the end of the bottle. No, we don't. No, just not co-hosts. No, we don't go. We're not going to that level. But no, I'm going to need something stronger than wine than this wine to do that. I would say.
Right.
But, okay. Yeah, I do have. I may have mentioned. I do have the Jets Reserve wine in the closet in the other room over there. So one day we'll wait for the time to break that bottle open. But it's going to take something special in order to do that. So, yeah, room's definitely not spinning. I'm just kidding. I'm fine. Okay, Dom. Hey Buffalo. Are you still with us? Are you all good?
He just he sent something privately.
Thumbs up. Okay, he's in back. Okay, all right, no problem. So Dom, I'm gonna give you just kind of like a random, just kind of like a fun Jets question. If you could have gone back in history, and let's leave out the Super Bowl because that's too easy. If you were to attend one Jets game in history, what game would you want to have gone to and why?
Oof, man. One game in Jets history. Well, I was lucky enough to be at some of the bigger ones that we do know. I was at the Monday Night Miracle. I guess if I could go back to one game. I know it's not very far back in history, but I think I would have liked to be at the playoff win. I forgot what year it was. Sanchez, Bart Scott, can't wait.
That would have been the 2010 season.
2010, yeah. That game was amazing.
See, it's easy to say that, but I got to tell you, I just can't imagine I would have gotten out of there alive, being surrounded by Patriots fans.
No, I know, but the vibe of that game was so real, and like that team, there was something special about that team. It was a bunch of misfits, a bunch of grizzled veterans just kind of pulled together, and they kind of meshed around that young quarterback and just went, man. I really like that team. Not our best team, but I really like the attitude that they had.
I think one of the biggest regrets that I have is I didn't really appreciate that team while it was around, because they had so many games where they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, and this is a franchise that has traditionally done the opposite. So the Detroit game, the Houston game, the Cleveland game, those are just three right there where I will say I was like, they're not going to win this game. They're not going to win this game. Right. And yet so many times they managed to win these amazing games. And we haven't really had that kind of magic since on a consistent level. So, yeah, some of those games, I wish I could relive those while they were happening. I didn't appreciate that team as much as I should have. Back then, because how would we know after that year or after? I'll give them even the next season because they were still in the mix for a while up until December. Have a good night, Iowa, and and then it just kind of fell apart late in that season, and then we've never recovered since.
No.
We thought we were on the ascent, like I was talking about earlier, but it crashed quickly. I think for me, one game, I think that I wish I could have been at that game against Green Bay in 2002 when we won the division. The New England Miami, after New England came back to beat Miami, which put the Jets back in the mix to win the division. With the comeback they had in that season, because they got off to such a bad start. I think they were like 1-3, 1-4 at one point. They were really bad. They had the opening win against Buffalo. I think that was when Chad Morton returned the 2 touchdowns, and then they went into the tank. I mean, they had a 3-game stretch where they lost 3 games by a combined score of 102-13. It was, oh my goodness. If ever a season seemed over, that was it. But but that was the year they went over to Chad, and the difference that he made was night and day. And I think to this day, that's one reason why he is my guy. He's always going to be my guy.
Yeah,
because I could not believe that he was able to resurrect that team the way that he did. And then there was the loss in Chicago late in that season. Actually, it was in Champaign-Urbana. I've ranted about that game before. As a guy who lived in Chicago for 20 years, I don't want to go too much back into it, but let's just say like to quote Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, I kind of took that personally.
Yeah.
But then they came back. They beat New England. Pennington beat Brady. I would just like to point that out for the record.
Yeah.
And then came what happened against the Packers when they whooped up on Brett Favre. A very good Packers team, by the way. A Packers team that was playing for home field advantage in the NFC playoffs. The Packers didn't come into that game with nothing to play for. They had a lot to play for. And the Jets, over the last 3 quarters, laid waste to them. I wish I could have experienced Jet Stadium when it was that jubilant. I can only imagine how special that really was.
Yeah. Chad Pennington I don't think he gets enough respect.
No.
There's not enough respect on his name. I mean, the true Jet fans know Chad and love Chad. I've never met a Jet fan that was upset that Chad Pennington was our quarterback. But, he didn't get enough respect for the leader and the player that he was, man. Arm talent aside, we know he didn't have the strongest arm, but I mean, he was as cerebral of a quarterback and as you'll ever see, man.
One of the smartest quarterbacks, one of the best leaders and most respected leaders that I've ever seen. Everyone wants to talk about just like the arm strength. I mean, Montana didn't have the best arm strength, but he was smart. He knew what he was doing. It didn't exactly hurt that he had Bill Walsh and Jerry Rice and the like around him.
Yeah.
That wasn't exactly harmful to his development.
And the creation, the West Coast offenses had really come. They really put that wheels in motion. So it's something that the defensive hadn't seen. Again, you were coming off of a generation where you put fullbacks and tailbacks and 2 tight ends and you pounded, and then once in a while threw it deep. So the West Coast offense, the formation of it was really something special and something different.
And there were times when the offense drove me crazy. I mean, when they were trying to implement that offense when Vinny Testaverde was the quarterback, and it went completely against the strengths of his playing abilities. I mean, come on, putting Vinny Testaverde as a West Coast offense quarterback, it would have been like asking me to play defensive tackle. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, I always wondered. Too many times the coaches and the players have not been on the same page, even when the team was actually good. There seemed to be some disconnects, and that always, I think, limited them.
So it's always I've always found it funny. Now we'll go back to like those days, or even like Parcells. All right, Parcells comes in, and what is Parcells is known as a 3-4 guy. Talk about defense. So he brings in guy. He takes over a team. And you got to completely shed all the personnel to bring in the guys that fit your scheme, right? And then and then Parcells leaves, and so on and so forth. Coach, it doesn't matter who the coach is, but they bring in a different scheme, and then you got to get rid of all those players, and then you got to bring in guys that fit like an even front or a 4-man front, with fast defensive edges. And then that coach leaves, and now they're going back to the 3-4, and now we're going to get rid of these these undersized defensive edges and bring in big, burly 5 tech ends and outside linebackers that can rush and so forth. People always try to fit players into the scheme as opposed to, listen, why don't we just fit the scheme around the players, right? And I think that's what I find very interesting about this team right here, the 2022 Jets. In a way, with what we're doing or the lack of what we're doing at the linebacker spot, maybe they're saying, you know what, our strengths are in the defensive backfield. We're going to put 5 guys on there. You hear the 4-2-5 being talked about more and more. They're kind of fitting the scheme to the players that they have here on the roster, as opposed to the opposite.
Well, Buffalo, I'm sorry, I didn't know I had to add to stream. So still figuring the. Yeah, I know.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good. I'm just chilling.
For the whole time, so I apologize about that.
No worries, bro. Yeah, I like the last point you made, Dom C. Of I think we've heard a lot of the talk this offseason of our system, and it's like, dude, not every system looks the same depending on what talent you have. Even on offense, like Jimmy Garoppolo and Zach Wilson, that should be a little bit of a different playbook with Zach Wilson's arm talent and athleticism. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think it's more proactive or more progressive coaches or coaching schemes will adjust like that. You know what I mean? Let's put talent. Let's fit our scheme to what works best about talent. And that's why I credit, as much as I really didn't care for him early on, I really, really give a lot of credit to LaFleur last year, because LaFleur had to not only learn how to be an offensive coordinator on a team that was decimated, but, he made the necessary adjustments as the season went on. He got so much better as a play caller and as a coach as the season went on. Like early on, it was just like, oof, but he adjusted on the fly. He worked with what he had. You know what I mean?
He did. And I don't think he did a lot. I wonder if how many of those gadget plays that he did because this is what we want to do. He felt he had no choice because he felt they had inferior offensive talent.
He had to steal some yards. He had to find a way to steal some yards.
Yep.
Right. So I don't think we're going to see quite as much trickery as we did last time.
He was a psychopath at the end half of the season. I mean, the play where they did the hook and ladder, but in a way I'd never seen it, where they hit Crowder on the drag and he threw it back to Barrios to pick up that was one of the most creative, like, third and long play calls I've ever seen. I like some of that, though. I do think we should still keep a bag for that. And I like to see, I think more important and what will translate more for the future is we started to see a bag of situational play calls for third and short, 2-point conversions, right? The busting out the Philly special against Cincinnati. That's more important. You got to have a staple of going into a game. Okay, we got 6 or 8 plays that we feel comfortable going with. We got to have 3 or 4 yards. And I think that was a more important development than just messing around with the trick plays.
Yeah. Listen, that's why I was actually, I'm not going to say I was disappointed. I was happy because I like the guy. I like the attitude. I like the player. But, Braxton Berrios in an ideal situation doesn't see the field or doesn't influence the game on offense nearly as much this year if everything goes well as he did last year. There's going to be no more double reverses and swing passes and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, it can't be what you rely on. It can't be your bread and butter. It's got to be the side of parsley, if nothing, at the most.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the talent now where that should not be needed. I mean, we have as well-rounded offense as I can remember the Jets having since maybe the days of Bill Parcells. I mean, I would go. I don't think that's really any exaggeration. When you factor in the quarterback, if he plays the way we want him to, the depth we have at running back. Look at the top. I'll just give you the top 4 wide receivers, and we'll see what Mims is. He's a wild card, not counting on him. 3 or 4 tight ends that we got to feel good about. The offensive line looks very good, and we do have some decent depth there now at this point. I mean, it's hard to say, this is what the Jets have to do on offense in order to succeed. We don't really know what the best part of their offense is going to be yet. We don't know what the go-to play is going to be, what the go-to formation is going to be. And that's something that I want to talk about more as we get closer to the offseason is what is the ideal offensive formation to maximize this team's ability to move the ball down the field and score points? Because think about it. You can make a case for the 20, for the 12, for the 11, for the 21. How many running backs do you want on the field? Do you want Breece Hall and Michael Carter on the field at the same time?
They'll have a package for that. I promise you they will.
You know it. Do you want 3 tight ends? Can you imagine Jeremy Ruckert maybe in an H-back role with Conklin, with Uzoma, and with a running back? It could be something else. And then there'll be times when we go with 4 wide receivers.
Well, I'll say this, and to touch on your point, Adam.
Yeah.
This is the most comfortable. This is the most excited. This is the most optimistic I felt about a Jets offense in a long time. I wish I could say I held the same sentiment for our defense. Our defense still scares me a little bit. We were the 32 ranked defense last year. Yes, we brought in some nice names in Sauce Gardner, and we're getting Carl Lawson back, and I love Jermaine Johnson, so on and so forth. But as a unit, it's easy to pick out the holes and the areas that might scare me. I don't feel that way on the offense. I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Like, I just feel like, they're doing what we should have done for Sam Darnold, what we should have done in the past, and we're really giving our young, talented, hopefully quarterback, franchise quarterback, the ability to have pieces around him that can make him successful. You know what I mean? We're 4 deep. We're 3-4 deep at every position. Our offensive line is as good as it's ever been. Since the Mangold and Ferguson days.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing though I'd say about the offense is you look at the roster and you're like on offense and you're like, man, where are the holes? But then you're like, where are the guarantees? Like there's so many wild cards because Becton's kind of a question mark. All the rookies are kind of a question mark. Zach is still a bit of a question mark. LaFleur, we like him, but he's got a lot to prove as a play caller. Then all these guys coming together and playing together for it's almost like an expansion team. That's why I like having Baltimore a good team week 1, and they're like, oh, John Harbaugh, he's gonna have all this time to prepare. Prepare for what? What tape you watching, dude? This is a brand new football team. I don't know what the heck's gonna happen. If the Jets go out there week 1 and it's 3 tight ends and they're playing rugby, I'm not gonna be shocked. If they go 4 wide and Mims is back in action, or and it's a Chan Gailey spread wide receivers look, I have no idea what to expect. So although the Jets, they have like the most upside of any offense I can remember since at least 2015 with Decker and Marshall. But even then, the backs weren't this good. The tight ends weren't that.
Tight ends were garbage. Yeah,
we didn't have wide receiver depth. I mean, we had Curly. We had
After
Curly, and
Enunwa
Enunwa didn't emerge till the end of the season.
You mean you weren't a
we
big
had Chris
Kembrell
Ivory,
Tompkins fan?
but that was it.
You're not a Kembrell Tompkins truther? Yeah. Come on, Y2K. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely deeper, but it's like it's a lot of wild cards. Like, what does Garrett Wilson do? I don't know. If you told me Garrett Wilson explodes onto the scene and he does, 85% of what Jamar Chase did, it's possible. Is it also possible that he starts off slow and he has like 500 yards? Yeah, I don't. There's a lot of question marks.
Listen, I think Garrett Wilson more so. Well, I'll speak about the offensive rookies. I think you can get away. Like, I think we should temper expectations on Garrett Wilson. First off, rookie wide receivers usually have a learning curve in the NFL. That's just it. I don't care if they're picked first. I don't care if they're picked 101st. There's a learning curve in the NFL. Now, there are the exceptions. The Justin Jeffersons or the Jamar Chases of the world that come in and light the ass of the NFL on fire, but that's not the norm. So I think we need to temper expectations. I really don't have any expectations this year for Jeremy Ruckert. Love the player, love the talent. But I don't think there's going to be tons of packages that involve Jeremy Ruckert this year. I think he's there for a reason. I think the juice was, the talent, the value for him at that pick was too high.
They had to do it.
You have Uzoma, who's really, in essence, under a 2-year contract, right? At 30 years old, under a 2-year contract. This is the perfect progression. I think the one that has to come in and has to hit if our offense is going to
Brees.
Exactly, is Brees Hall. He's the one who has to come in and has to hit and has to become a player from the get-go. If that happens, there's a better chance that our offense is going to be in good shape. I don't, what Garrett Wilson brings at this point is gravy, because I think, like I said, you're right. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Kevin, what you talked about. Like, there's a lot of question marks. We know that the offense is going to go as far as Zach Wilson, elevates it to, but if that elevation struggles, or if it's not to the point that we really want it to be, that true that Josh Allen second year that everyone talks about is like the ceiling for Zach this year. If it doesn't get that high, if he's Kirk Cousins, Jimmy G-esque, then we really need Bryce to pick up the difference. Or Brees, not Bryce.
We'll all be doing it over the course of the season. I think what we know, we have a lot of good players on offense, a lot of potentially very good players. But how many great offenses are out there where there isn't at least one go-to game-breaking player? I think outside of Zach Wilson's legitimate progression, the most important thing to hope for is that one of these players, and we have several guys who could potentially do it, become the go-to player, the guy that other defenses absolutely fear, have to double team, have to game plan for. We have to come up with one of those guys over the course of the season has to emerge as that player. If that happens, then yes, I could see this offense scoring in the high 20s and averaging in the high 20s, early 30s per game. I really believe that. And as far as the fullback question goes, Nick Bawden better not get cut. Okay, I think Trevon Wesco has shown all the potential that he will ever show. Please, let's keep Nick Bawden. I want him on this team. Mm-hmm. I believe he will open up more holes for Braxton Berrios in the return game and plenty of holes for Breece Hall, who, by the way, needs space to be great. Okay? You give him the space, he will make yards. But don't count on him to get his own yards. Don't count on with his size running over any other defensive tackles. That's not going to happen. A good fullback is going to do wonders for this kid. So, yes, please, I do not want to lose Nick Bawden by any stretch of the imagination. So, just had to respond to that comment.
I'm going to give me 1 second. I'm going to shut off the camera. I just got to plug in.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point, Watu K, because I was thinking about that. Like, the Jets have a very good depth and versatility on offense, but do they have a guy who could be a top 10 player at an offensive skill position? Because if you look at the upper echelon offenses in the NFL, they all have one. Like, I'm looking at last year, the top offenses in yards per play, which I think is like the best metric of an offense's efficiency. And, it's like Kansas City, obviously, San Francisco, Debo, Tampa Bay, like 2 number 1 wide receivers, both LA teams, whether it be Cooper Kupp or, Justin Herbert as emerging as a top 10 quarterback for sure. Buffalo, Stephon Diggs, elite receiver. Green Bay had Devontae Adams. Cincinnati, Jamar Chase. So they all had that one go-to guy. And then it makes, we really, and I'm hoping either more, I think it's going to be Garrett Wilson eventually, but I really think Elijah Moore becomes this player next year where it's just, you need some one read plays for your young quarterback. Not every 3rd and 5 has to be like a 4 progression read where everything has to go right. And then this guy's not open and the offense holds up. And then I look the safety off over here and then I squeeze it into my 3rd read. And you can't be that hard all the time. Like on 3rd and 6, you know what Buffalo's play is? Hey, Stephon Diggs, go be better than that corner.
Or Josh Allen run the ball.
Allen take a QB keeper out to the right. You know what I mean? You need that. So can Elijah Moore be that guy where it's 3rd and Elijah? And it's simple. And Zach Wilson, it's a 3-step drop. You let it rip. The timing is good because you've practiced it a million times. And you need some of that. You need some guys who can create some layups for you. Maybe Elijah's that guy. Hopefully Garrett down the line too.
Yeah, and we had a comment here about Zach could have 20 touchdowns this season from Sean. Considering there's 17 games, I think 20 touchdowns would be a tremendous disappointment. With this season, I want 30. I don't think 30 touchdowns is asking too much from Zach Wilson at all.
Were they touchdown passes or total touchdowns?
I think he meant touchdown passes, but still, I think touchdown passes. There's no reason he can't get 30. 17 games.
Yeah, I'd split the difference. I'd be happy with 25. But I'll say this: like, look, we can say whatever number we want. At the end of the day, if you set your number at 30 and he throws 29, you're not going to be mad. So it becomes kind of a little bit of a semantic endeavor. But I think we would all agree we need legitimate 21st century quarterback stats out of Zach Wilson. You know what I mean? It can't be this, 18 touchdowns, 12 picks, 59% completion. No. We got to see a completion percentage well into the 60s, 3,800 yards, and touchdowns in the mid-20s. He's got to do that.
Yeah, and how about our drop rate from our receivers be under, how about it be in the single digits as opposed to the double digits? That would be refreshing. That's only going to make him that much better.
Hey, it only can go up from last, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Amen. So you made a point, Adam, before about Nick Bawden.
Yes.
You want him on the team. do you think there's a possibility they keep more than 4 running backs total? That would be Bawden and right now on the roster, I guess, Hall, Carter, and Coleman.
Probably Coleman. Well, I think P. Ryan and Johnson are not long for this world anymore. I think the only guy you can make a good argument. What?
That was dark. Are you going to do to them whatever you did to Jeremy?
The funny part is,
excuse me, I got to call a guy named Vinny. He was yeah. Anyway,
the funny part is about the running backs. If those and I hear you, like that might be the 4, as constituted right now. What is?
I'm sorry, but Jets Fan United is right. It's either Bam Knight is the only other guy I could see pushing to make this roster as a running back.
Yeah. And if he shows he can give you some juice on special teams, I don't see any of them upending Coleman. Coleman, I wasn't pumped about bringing him in last year, but he had a lot of tread on the tires. I really like him as our running back 3.
Yeah, well, I think Bam Zonovan Knight is Tevin Coleman light. You know what I mean? He does he does the job. He's got some wheels. He provides help on the special team, so on and so forth. So I don't see both of them making the team, and I think I think with the comfortability that the staff has in Tevin Coleman, with his understanding of the offense, with his veteran presence and leadership in a very young running back room, I think Bam's going to have a hell of a camp to oversee Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, I see him on the practice squad.
That's
what
I was going to say. Yeah.
Listen, I hope he makes the practice squad, and I hope he's not plucked from the practice squad.
Yeah, could be.
And I hope he's not so good that somebody else signs him away from us while we're trying to put him.
Yeah, we got to hide him a little bit.
Yeah. We have to want him to do well, but not too well. It's a very tricky thing.
We need him to tick off Rich Cimini a little bit. Get some negative tweets out there about Bam.
Oh, that's not hard at all.
But about the running back room, you got to be honest. The thing that's a little bit concerning is the pass pro. Where's the pass pro come from? All right, because Carter was, mediocre at best.
He's 5'8",
Yeah, Breece Hall was never asked to do it in Iowa State. I'm not saying he can. I'm not saying he's not going to be a willing and a successful, in pass protection. But he was never asked to do it. So it's a huge question mark right there.
How did Coleman hold up in pass pro last year?
I'm sorry.
How did Coleman hold up in pass pro?
He wasn't on the listen. I don't think he had.
Really.
I don't think he had many pass pro reps. I mean, he's there for a specific reason, right? He's there to kind of guide that offense. Michael Carter, out of all their running backs, Michael Carter and Ty Johnson spent the most time in pass pro, and Ty Johnson was awful. I think he rated out as one of the worst running backs with over 300 snaps in pass protection in the league. So it's definitely a concern.
The only thing that Ty Johnson really did well last year was run down the sidelines, like tiptoe and stay in bounds.
Yeah, he's got quick feet down the edge, but after those 17 drops in the first 3 minutes against Miami, I was kind of done with him, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we all were. We appreciate that he was able to stay around for a couple of years, but there's guys like Ty Johnson are a dime a dozen.
Listen, nice story coming out of Detroit. We found him, had some good plays, had some good times, but he's just a guy. You know what I mean?
Rooting for him. Hope he gets a job somewhere, but
total jag.
Well, as of right now, he still has
got great hair too. Yeah, you got to respect his hair game. He's got a pretty good fro going.
Yeah. But that's again, that's something that's going to be concerning. Now, why I asked that? Okay, Bowden is a phenomenal run blocker, and he's never on the field. If we're in pass sets, he's not the guy in the field. But a guy like Trevor Wesco could be, right? Because you can put him in and you can put him in the backfield, and if you had 2 running backs, you can have him in there to block and kind of peel off and be a security blanket, run those flat routes, so on and so forth. But I can't see them keeping Bowden and Wesco.
You know what the solution is to that? Is Jeremy Ruckert does what you just described Wesco doing, maybe.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, what if you had to ask me what does Wesco do really well, I'd have to really think about it. I know Nick Bawden can run block very well.
Yeah. Nick Bawden's the truth when it comes to lead, being a lead blocker. Wesco probably has better hands than Nick Bowden.
That's okay. I'm not asking him to be that guy. That's not. We have plenty of pass catchers. We have tight ends. We don't need to use our fullbacker as a pass catcher out of the backfield.
I think he's going to be a guy when he comes in, you know what's coming, and can you stop it?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. We didn't get Juice Check, so you know what? I want him to be our new Juice Check. How about that? I'm hoping. But I could see it. I love his energy. I saw the fire in him. I like this guy. I like on.
But and I will say this about Ruckert: if you haven't watched him, like his film on how he blocks, that guy is a dog. I mean, he gets his nose in there and he puts every ounce of effort into blocking, and he did that more so. He was known more as a blocker in Ohio State than he was as a receiver because of all the other weapons they had there, and I've said this 1,000 times and I stand by it. Like, I believe Ruckert's one of those guys his NFL career is going to trounce what he was in college production wise. You know what I mean? He just wasn't he was asked to do a role in college. He was the 4th, 5th option at times on the offense. And he was asked to get in there and get in the line, pin his ear back and get dirty. And he does it as good as anybody else that came out of this class.
Yeah, and that's why he's a really good fit for this team, because the first year or two with the Jets, he's probably going to be asked to play a similar role than he was at Ohio State. If Ruckert wanted to go to Colorado State, East Carolina University, up by me, Frozen Tundra, University of Buffalo, a smaller school, he probably would have been a school record-setting pass catcher at tight end. Yep. But he went to wide receiver U, and he was asked to do exactly what he said, do the dirty work. And this dude played like a walk-on freshman trying to make the team. I mean, an absolute. There was this one play. Joe Blewett tweeted out like a series of plays of him blocking, and they would often have him pull. Like, he'd line up as a tight end, and he would pull and just decleat middle linebackers, and then like get up and finish the play. Like, the plays over here, it's dead, and he's finishing the play like a wrestler. I mean, he's going to be a guy who comes in and he does everything you ask of him. That's a big question about guys coming out of college who have been the star their whole life, now are asked to be a role player. Well, we already know he can be a role player. We already know he's going to put his ego to the side. So that for that reason, I really think that's a good pick, and maybe he'll get some snaps just as a blocker. I'm worried about running back though, with not having a plus pass pro guy at running back at that rate. Take that linebacker and go empty set. Okay, now go cover Michael Carter. At that point, I'd rather have you trying to cover Michael Carter than Michael Carter trying to block your 240-pound Mike linebacker coming for Zach Wilson's head. Well,
and that's the thing. That's what the guys that we've put in this offense allows us to really dictate what's going to happen. You know what I mean? You can see, if you put we'll put Pittsburgh, a very blitz happy team. You see them and they're approaching the line and they look like they're bringing the house in there. You can do exactly that. You can flare out Michael Carter or push him out into the slot and say, okay, we're gonna have one less guy coming off the heat, off the middle, and you get him on some shag, some swaggy little linebacker that he's going to beat 10 out of 10 times.
Yep.
But in those situations where they're bringing 6 and we got 5 linemen and you got we're banking our hopes on Michael Carter or Breece Hall being able to step in there. It's scary. Again, I don't know if Breece Hall. I'm not saying that he's bad in pass pro. I'm just saying, and I watched a lot of his game film. He just didn't do it a lot. He wasn't asked to. He was asked to run the rock.
Yeah, and even Bam Knight, I mean, he blocked a little bit at NC State, but he didn't necessarily have the best technique, but he was always willing.
Yeah.
The Sky Report is he was always willing to get his nose dirty when he had to. He just might need a little bit of refining. And that's okay. If he's got the willingness, I'm like, okay, I feel like Robert Saleh, whoever can coach that. But if you have the willingness and the desire to not just run the ball, but to get your nose dirty, then you can learn the techniques of it. So I do have hope that Knight could develop into that, but let's not count on him to do that from day one. So
hot take for you guys.
Yeah.
Better chance that the Jets have a top 10 offense or a top 10 defense?
Offense.
Well, you said that without hesitation.
I absolutely said it without hesitation because I don't trust the run defense at all. Yeah, I just don't. I think the offense is much more well-rounded. Now, we can look at the schedule and break down, who the tougher matchups might be. I mean, we always tend to look at quarterbacks, and we know we're facing some excellent quarterbacks this season. I mean, Rodgers, Wilson, Allen twice, and so on. But, yeah, for me, I think the defense – I think for the defense to be like a top 10 level defense, they are not only going to have a dynamite, consistent pass rush, but that pass rush is going to have to generate some turnovers. And you know what? I think that's one of the best things that can happen for the Jets is this offense gets off to a quick start. They take early leads, and then the defense, the other team is forced to throw the ball a lot more, and they can't control the game with the running attack. And then the defense, knowing the other team is going to throw the ball, they can really pin back and then just rush the hell out of the quarterback. So I think early leads will be a very important aspect to the Jets having success in a lot of these close games this season.
Yeah, I'd say offense. I'd say offense, and I don't really have to think about it either. Number one, we were 32nd in defense last year, 21st in offense. So, the defense would have to make almost double the leap that the offense would have to make. Number two, no addition to the defense is going to have the impact on this. No individual addition, one player added to our defense, Jermaine Johnson, DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, as much as I love them, none of them are going to have the impact of an improved Zach Wilson will on the offensive side of the football. And then the third reason is I have a lot more confidence in Mike LaFleur than I do in Jeff Ulbrich. I feel much better about how the offense was coached. The offense started slow. Then the creative play calling got better. We had a stretch of a month where we led the league in overall yardage. We did. We only won one game. A lot of it was backup quarterbacks, but we had a stretch where we put together some competent offensive play. The defense was overachieving early. Remember how we were saying, man, these young guys are coached up. And then the bottom fell off, and we just got worse and worse and worse. So I like the trajectory of our offensive coaching staff better than our defensive coaching staff at the moment as well.
And I agree with you with both of your statements. I would say the offense as well. I've already voiced my opinion on how confident and optimistic I am about the offense. But I pose this at you. Do you think, and again, health being the main issue, we're working under the premise that Carl Lawson comes back to the effect of that he was pre-injury, all right? The additions that we have at edge to really get at the quarterback now, as well as the additions that we've had to shut down or to better our back end with our defensive backs, don't you think that combined could ultimately see us really spike from 32 up as well?
Just 32-10 is just such a high level to climb to, especially when the schedule is only getting more difficult, in my opinion. Now, I think I could see us getting. I could see the defense being maybe a top 10 defense in the second half of the season. I could give you that. As they start to come together, I could see as guys like Sauce get better because we have so many new starters on defense. It might take some time for them to really figure each other out. That's why I'm glad we have a few veterans around. Like I still really am glad they brought back LaMarcus Joyner for a little bit of leadership in that secondary. I think he's going to be a lot more important than some people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, I think he's a lot more versatile than people realize that he is.
Oh, yeah.
He spent the majority of his career, of the peak of his career, in the slot. Exactly. So we talk about playing that big nickel or having more defensive backs on the field. You can still have him play in the slot. You can still have him come down and cover tight ends or big slots and keep somebody, whoever your deep center field safety is. You can play with three safeties. I think that the versatility that he offers is being underrated. Now, it's probably because we haven't seen him play in 2 years. But
it's going to be close too. Like with the offense and the defense, I think at the end of the day, both are probably going to be in the teens somewhere. And I'm going to kind of contradict myself because I made the same point Adam did with going from 32 to 10, but there's so much parity in the NFL with those numbers. And if you look at it like, the 11th team to like the 19th team, you're really splitting hairs there. So even just marginal improvement, I think the biggest wild card for our defense is how many turnovers can we force? Because my God, at what point does just the law of probability get the ball to bounce into some of our freaking defensive players' hands? When's the last time we recovered a fumble, for crying out loud? I mean, JC Jackson, I remember I came across this stat when I was doing like free agent stuff and like, could we sign JC Jackson? JC Jackson, I want to say it's something like, I think all Jets defensive backs the last 3 years have maybe just 3 or 4 more interceptions than JC Jackson does by himself. It's crazy. So now that we have guys who like Sauce Gardner, good ball skills, Jordan White had a guy who can punch a ball out, going to get some sacks, some strip sacks, also getting pressure on the quarterback, making quarterbacks be rushed, have to make poor decisions, having a close scoreboard. So teams actually have to be aggressive and take chances to force turnovers. So that to me is the wild card, is how often can we take the ball away?
Last year we had 14 turnovers in 17 games.
Oh, that's just not, you got to double that.
Yeah. It's just not going to cut it. So
yeah, well, and I think the big part of that is how many, and I don't know that you have it in front of you. Maybe you can tell me, how many sacks did we have last year as a team?
I'll pull it up.
I know that I think Quinnen led the team. He only had like 7, maybe.
Yeah. Quinnen definitely had the most. It was either him or it was. I think actually he tied with JFM. Yeah, they both had 6, as a matter of fact.
So I think pressure leads to if we can get more consistent pressure, whether it's up the middle or from the edges. We barely blitzed last year. I just don't think we had the personnel to do it. I don't know if we have the personnel to do it this year, but we can lean more on the dogs that we have on the outside of the defensive line. But I think if we can bring some more constant pressure, that's just going to lead to more turnovers. And it's also going to lead to it also helps that we have defensive backs with more ball skills. No disrespect to Bryce Hall. He just doesn't pick, he doesn't have that nose for the ball, Great. He played great last year, not disrespecting him, but he doesn't have the ball skills of Ahmad Sauce Gardner. He doesn't have the ball skills of DJ Reed.
Right. Dom, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Shoot.
And take a guess. Y'all want some trivia tonight? I'll give you some trivia right now because we're going to wind down pretty soon. But how many Jets last year had 3 sacks or more?
3 sacks or more? Well, you've already said 2 of them.
Yeah, and I could even tell you how many sacks they had for the year total if you want. I'll even give you that number if you want first.
I'll answer your question without that. I'm going to say 4.
Buffalo, what do you think?
I think it was just 3. I think it was Quinnen, JFM, and Huff.
I wish it was Bryce Huff, but he missed a good portion of the season with a back injury. It was 3. It was Quinnen, JFM, and Sheldon Rankins. And we had 33 sacks for the year. So
I would have guessed that CJ had gotten 3 sacks. I didn't know it off the head, but I kind of estimated that would be like his floor.
Can you believe that? That's 1 sack every 6 games. We only had 3 players who could play that off. And I want to hear about rotations and things like that. That is weak. Mosley had 2. Quincy had 2. Huff had 2. We had a bunch of guys who had 1. Oh, my gosh. Hey, Bryce Hall had half a sack. That was nice. I still remember that play.
Yeah.
But, Jared Wilson. Anybody remember Jared Wilson?
Yeah, sure.
JARROD. I almost forgot about him. He had 1.
Was that no, that wasn't who was the safety who got cooked by Robbie Anderson?
Sheldrick Redwine.
Oh,
he was gone 2 games later. He was on his way to Miami after that. Yeah. I think he's the one that this wine was named after. Sheldrick Redwine, right here.
He just had I was watching ESPN before, and they were flipping through some of the OTAs and whatnot. And I guess he's on Cleveland now.
Sheldrick he went to Cleveland?
Yeah, because he had a big pick of Deshaun Watson today. It was like
knowing Cleveland, they're about to give him a 5-year contract. Sounds great, but yeah. So, 2 guys with 6 sacks, 1 with 3, 3 with 2. I'm feeling pretty confident in saying that is going to change drastically this season.
Yeah.
drastically.
I don't
Alright,
think
guys,
we
I
have.
think,
I still don't know if we have a guy who gets double digits, though. To be honest, I think people have. I think if you're attaching yourself to a sack total number from Carl Lawson, you might be disappointed because, his career high is 8.5. The year that got him paid in Cincy, he was 6.5. So for him to get double digits, is he going to nearly double his last healthy season coming off an Achilles? Like I think I'll take 7 or 8 sacks and solid against the run and good pressure from Carl Lawson all day long.
Yeah. Carl Lawson's game is not built on sacking the quarterback. It is built on pressuring the quarterback, and
being well-rounded. Yeah, only 21 guys last year had double-digit sacks in the NFL, so it's not as common as we might think.
Right, even Jermaine Johnson, like people, a first-round pick, like if he's a guy who gets you 7 or 8 sacks and is stout against the run, if he's Calvin Pace, and you get him at the 26th pick, I'll take it
all day. Take it all day. Listen, I'll take 4 or 5 guys that have 6 sacks. As opposed to one guy that has 13 and the rest of them have 4.
Or Bryce Hall, who had half a sack, and we hope the surgery went well.
I think it's a completely reasonable expectation. I hope Bryce Huff comes back healthy, though, because I still think he's a good rotational piece. But even after he came back from his back injury in the last season, he did not have the same explosiveness by any stretch.
He flashed early, though. I was like, ooh, who's this?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Sure did.
All right, guys. Well, it's 10 after. We've been going a little longer than 2 hours on this, and plus the 3 of us have to get some people that we know to see if we can hunt down Jeremy, see if he's still alive. Or
I don't think he is, but
I have no messages from him. It's just.
I think the same guy who took Jude out that one time, I think also took Jeremy out. I think it was just like a big hand who came out and. Yeah, I think Jeremy's new avatar should just be him going like that. I think that just pretty much sums it up. So, all right. So, Dom, Buffalo, thanks very much for joining me. It's been great going back and forth with you. Go ahead and plug your stuff. Tell us what you have going on. Buffalo, how about you go first this time?
Sure. Buffalo Jet fan, just as it says right there, Twitter, YouTube. I actually take a day off. Have a day off tomorrow. I got a couple of interviews, but within there, tomorrow, for those of you who may be free, at 10 a.m., I will have Jake Asman on my show talking some Jets ball. If you want to come by, check that out.
Wow.
Awesome.
Man, getting the A troops. Jake knows his stuff, and it's nice he could take the time out from recording 5 videos a day to spend some time with you. He's amazing. He's got some work ethic. You got to admire it for sure. All right, Don, what have you got going on? Any articles coming up? Anything?
Yeah, one just posted today on greenbeanjetsfan.com where I touch on 5 guys that I think are, still available in free agency that I think would be decent fits. It's a fun article. It's a good article. I got another one coming out on the running back crew that we have. That'll be posted next Monday. You can always find me on Twitter. DC_NY Jets. And thank you, Chris. I appreciate you reading the article. And that's it, man. And Sunday nights, I'm here live with Jeremy, co-hosting our Sunday night show.
Yeah, he'll be on the Buffalo Jet fan too soon. It's been too long, Don. We gotta talk some Jets, man.
Sure, anytime, man.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think I'll check that article out probably. I'd say tomorrow morning, but East Coast it's already tomorrow, so later this morning.
It's nothing crazy. We touch on a lot of the same positional things. It's just some guys that I think are decent fits, and some guys that probably are flying under the radar that we hadn't thought about.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to be sending Green Bean an article pretty soon myself where I ranked, I think I alluded to this. I've had this in the can for a little bit, but I ranked the best jersey numbers in Jets history, which players wearing a certain jersey have been the most productive. And I kind of ranked the top 10 based off Pro Bowls, the Super Bowl victory, if they were had their jersey retired, if they went to the Hall of Fame, if they're in the Ring of Honor. So I actually did a whole breakdown on that, and I'm going to send it over to Green Bean tomorrow. So look for that to be on his website in the coming days. And for my channel, it is currently Watt2K99, but we're going to change it a little bit to New York Sports Wicker Media. So as of right now, it's going to be a little more wide ranging. Oh yes, we're going to be recording from the chair. We have it in from Virginia. I posted a couple of videos this morning chronicling the recovery of the chair. We take you down underground into a Cary, North Carolina parking garage, and we penetrated the cage in order to recover the chair and bring it back safely 3.5 hours here to Newport News, by God, Virginia. So I'm excited. I've got a little bit of a setup right now in another room with a nice background that I'm pretty excited to show everybody.
Nice.
So yeah, watch for that. Yeah, I'll still be Watsuke 99, but I think I'm going to change the name of this to New York Sports Wicker Media, just to make it a little bit more distinctive. And you may have noticed my profile picture changed. That is actually a picture of the chair. So I was getting a question about that. Yes, so it is actually the chair. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for tonight. We will see you for the next Wacky Wednesday. We can't wait to see you. Tune into Green Bean Show tomorrow. Jeremy and I will be there. Thank you so much. Be well, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.